All right, let's build a dashboard minus the navigation buttons. So first thing we're going to do is print preview and just see we have four panels, all 2D column bars, one, two, three of them coming from income statement, one of them coming from balance sheet. So let's see how this is going to work. Since the first one is income statement coming from net sales, let's go ahead and grab the 5 years of projected net sales. Navigate to insert. Let's click the drop down next to 2D column, and let's go ahead and pull that one up. It plotted itself on top of the income statement tab. Let's go ahead and make a second tab, and I'm going to call this one dashboard. And this is my work in progress version. And I'm going to drag it right next to it so that I can work together. Let's grab that graph off the income statement and cut it and then put it right onto my work in progress so we can toggle back and forth and start customizing. First thing, let's click on the chart title and let's relabel it as net sales. Second thing I see is we need to have a legend in here with the graph selected, chart design, add chart element. Let's add a legend and put it to the top. The series is right now called Series 1, but we need it to be called Baseline. So with the graph selected, let's choose Chart Design, select Data, and yours will look a little bit different on the Mac, but it's the same basic field names. So I need to highlight the series and edit it and give it a series name. And that series we're going to use is Baseline, and then it shows me the data that I'm going to use, and click OK. Then we need to do the horizontal x-axis. Again, in your Mac, it's a little bit different. It's sitting here off to the side, but the same basic notion that I can edit this and I can go out to my income statement and just grab those 5 years. And then that gives me nice x-axis labels in here. But I want to show you something. If I hover over this value right now, you see it's that 14018 coming from the income statement. Now, what happens if on the assumptions we made a new assumption, like optimistic sales scenario, on that dashboard, look at what happens. It automatically changed to 16 million because it's connected to live. We want baseline to be static. So here's what we're going to need to do. First thing, make sure that you have your model completely reset. So when we look on the income statement, we should see that 14 million number. From here, let's right mouse click on top of income statement, and we're going to make a copy of that income statement and put it right next to the other one. And just like we did when we were working with the macro, we're going to rename that one static. Now here's the critical move is if we look up in the formula bar, we see that the balance sheet's full of formulas. The income statement. So we're going to copy it all. And from there, we're going to paste it special and we're going to paste it as values. So now you see when I move all around, those are just plain numbers that won't change. So that when I go back to my dashboard work in progress and I highlight the graph and choose chart design, let's select the data. And then this time, when we have the baseline, we'll edit it. Instead of it looking at the income statement, we needed to look at the static income statement. So let's grab the values off of the static income statement to be plotted for our baseline. Then we now need to, and again on the Mac it's different, I think it's a plus sign over here, but we need to add a second series, and this will be the live or revised one. And the revised one will come off the actual live income statement. So we grab those 5 years, and when we start out, they look the exact same. But let's see if it went ahead and worked. If we go to our assumptions and we change our assumption for net sales growth to optimistic, when we come to the dashboard, we should see that that revised set of numbers went to the 16 million we saw before compared to that original 14 million that we originally estimated. So from there, now we have a multi-series baseline versus revised. Let's do our customizations. So if we grab onto here, you can actually use this little paintbrush right here if you want, pull up styles. We can right mouse click on top of this if we want, and then we could fill, for example, with that darker blue for baseline. And then if we grab this one, I actually like to work from the format selection pane over here. And then I can click on the paint can. And I think for this one, we're using this orange right here for the revised. And so now I have a graph that looks just like this one with one exception. Got to click on the chart area. And under that chart design, I believe in my chart area, I also have that as filled with like a light gray color here. So I think it's that one I'm using in the background. Great, now I have a net sales graph. So here's a quick way to do a hack. Why don't I just copy and make sure I move off of that and paste my graph in here, and let's work on the EBITDA one. First, let's change the title, make it EBITDA. It's still going to be baseline versus revised. Let's select the chart and select our data. Baseline this time, when we edit it, the baseline we know needs to come off the static information, but we need to make sure that it's now the 5 years worth of EBITDA is our new baseline here. And then our revised, remember, is always going to come off of the live income statement. So let's grab our 5 years of EBITDA there. All right, so now I have that graph too. Let's reset it just to make sure that it's working properly, because when we reset it, they should all go back to even. Ooh, mine did and mine did, but the colors are different. So let's just go ahead and change our colors again. We'll use this blue over here, and we'll use this orange right over here. Okay. I'm going to pull this one down and out of the way, and then let's just check the sizes. If I highlight on it and I look at the format, it's 3x5, and so is that one, and I like the uniformity of it. But if I wanted to line them up together, what I can do is make this a lot smaller so I can see better. Off the home, I'll go to that Find and Select. I'm going to select objects, I'm going to draw a box around them, and then from there I can align those to the top. And now I can just hold down my cursor if I'd like, or my arrow keys, and I'm going to move them down and around to row 7. But I'm not going to push them all the way flush to the left quite yet, because when I look at it, it does start around row 7, and I will flush them left, but not quite yet. And I'll show you why in a minute. All right, back to our work in progress then. Let's go ahead and leave our find and select mode by just hitting escape. Let's copy and paste the EBITDA over there, because the next one needs to be net income. And now you should be getting the rhythm down where we're selecting data. We know that baseline's always coming off the static. So let's make sure we get ourselves that income statement static, and we're looking for net income this time for those 5 years. And then we need to do the same. Notice I didn't quite grab everything properly, so let's make sure we give it the right series name again. This first one should be baseline, and it's coming off of that income statement static for net income. So just be careful when you're grabbing your numbers to make sure you don't miss. So now I've got my baseline, and then let's edit our revised, and our revised should be the net income coming off of the live statement. So now I've got that. Notice it missed again, so just be careful when you edit. It only grabbed C22. So let me just make sure I'm grabbing all the way through the end. Oops, lucky because I put it in name. That name should be revised, and the data should be down here. And sometimes I hit tab just to go through to make sure it's accepting that change. Okay, let's left align these things together by again going to that home. This is that find and select. Let's select objects. And I'm going to draw a box just around those left two so I can shape format, and then I can align those to the left. And now that I know they're both together, I'll just true them up to the left-hand side by using my arrow keys. Let's make the view a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. And then we're back to these customizations, where you know that we have to change the fill of this one to be that darker blue, and the fill of this one is going to be our orangey flavor in there. Oh, but I only selected one of them, so let me make sure that we're selecting all 5 at the same time, and now we can fill those in properly so that we have our baseline versus revised net income as well. For the last one that we need to do, the last one is a cash and cash equivalents. That comes off of balance sheet. So we know that this is the live balance sheet with the formulas. Let's make sure that we make a copy of this one too, and we'll put the balance sheet near its friend so that we have a balance sheet that we're going to rename to be static. And then again, we'll copy all of the values on my balance sheet. And then we're going to paste them in special as values again so that they stay constant. And then just take a peek. Yep, see how those are all just plain numbers now. So that we go back to our dashboard. If I copy this one, move off, paste it in there. Let's go ahead and change this up. This is now cash and cash equivalents. And the data for this, if we select it, remember baseline, if we click edit, the baseline, it's not income statement, but it is static. So we got to get ourselves to our balance sheet static, and let's add in those 5 values there for your balance sheet static. Notice some reason when I did it again, Excel's giving me troubles today with the grabbing of the data. So I'm just going to make sure I grab it again and make sure that information gets in there. Okay, and then edit our revised. And remember, the revised is going to come off of the real balance sheet where we need our cash and cash equivalents. Let me move that out of the way just to make sure we get it. All right, and so we've got all of ours in there now. Basic customizations, then again, this one needs to be the darker blue, and this one needs to be the light orange, and now we've got cash and cash equivalents. Close that up. I'm going to make it much smaller again so that I can go back to the home and do the find and select objects. I'm going to grab just these ones on this side and then ask it to align itself to the left. If I do a view and a page break preview, you can see how I've ended up on 2 separate pages. So let's turn our page layout and our page setup. Let's go ahead and make this thing landscape and see if that gets us a little bit closer. It does indeed, but we still have some room to work with. So the other thing that I had been doing all along is I've made all of these 89% as a common standard. So that's going to shrink it up a little bit for us. Then the last thing we can do is again back off of that home. If we use that find and select objects, we can draw boxes around these things. I'm going to change my view to be normal again and make sure that off of the home we do that select objects. And I can pull those ones all the way until they're flush to the left. And then grab these ones, make sure that they are on the left-hand side of that breaker line. And then it does look like they need to go up some, so let's go ahead and true them up this way. And then we'll do the same thing over here and just grab them and make sure that they're moved up. And then we can also, again, do our alignment just to make sure that everything is looking like they are in the perfect places together on the little spreadsheet so that nothing is out of the ordinary. And then when we print preview, now we've got it all in one nice page, which again, we can now do our page setup for, put our header and footer on there, which we're using file in tab. And for some reason, my default on this one is 12 instead of 11. And in the custom footer, we'll do page number and number of pages and highlight that up and make sure that that's at 11. And now I have a nice little dashboard, which let's go ahead and check one more time and see if it works. If I come to my assumptions and I make net sales growth more optimistic, and let's say I make days receivable also optimistic, I would expect the following 2 things to be true. Number 1, my revised projections for all of my income statements should be higher than my baseline. And number 2, my revised projections for my cash and cash equivalents is now also higher. If I go back to assumptions and reset that, then the dashboard too should go back to where it was in the beginning.